right, all right. Listen, the conversation is so sweet because we're getting into the groove already, and we want to welcome this morning the Minister of Digital Transformation, Senator the Honourable Hassel Bacchus. He was appointed in this particular role and function on July 12th, 2021. And let's be real, this is a most important conversation in a time where technology and that push for digital and for, you know, obviously that interaction with the devices that's clearly accessible. I went to a function that the minister was at on Saturday, and the CEO of TSTT identified there is 1.9 million mobile devices in Trinidad, and from what we understand, it's still about 1.3, 1.5, so more phones than people on the island. Let's welcome the minister to the set live as we get into this discussion of national digital transformation and the strategy. Good morning. Good morning to you, Jason, and good morning to all the viewers of CNC3, and thank you for the invite. For those, you know, the hearing of the ministry, hearing of that particular term, digital transformation, your portfolio, your vision, just break it down for those looking on, especially the mature audience watching us this morning. Yeah, it's something I like to demystify from time to time. When we first started out in the ministry, I would spend a lot of time explaining the differences between digitization, digitalization, and digital transformation. And to put it easily, digitization is really just creating a digital record of something. So right now I use the Digital Guardian, for example. So all the information that you have in that paper in your hand is now in a digital format. Yeah. That is digitization. Yeah. Digitalization would include now the adding of processes and involvement of change in the application of the technology. So, for example, creating a digital record of what is the content of the Guardian is one thing. Making it accessible to people so that you can pay and you can get it anywhere, is when you add those processes to that to do it. In the transformation of what we're trying to do is to change the culture completely, revolutionize the business, using ICT as a foundation to do it. So now what you really want is that everyone uses the Digital Guardian for what they have. It becomes the way in which people get their information from the Guardian. And we were actually talking before we came on live, because there's still, as you mentioned, culture, the word culture, and you know, culture is one of the hardest things to change. What about those people who are still a bit wary about the technology? They're a bit intimidated when it comes to doing that transaction, let's say over the phone, over the laptop. You know, there's still those who love the physical feel of the papers. I mean, I also have the Digital Guardian, but they still have massive, I won't say massive, but a cross-section of the community that they still feel a bit intimidated. What do we say to those people? So at the ministry, and the way in which we are dealing with the transformation requirement is that we spread it out across 3 pillars. And one of those pillars is the digital society pillar. In that digital society, what we're trying to do is to raise the digital awareness and the digital IQ of the citizenry. So what that is really engendered to do is to build trust. We were having a conversation as well. There are a number of people who are not scared of the technology anymore. They use it. They will buy stuff on Amazon, buy stuff on eBay. But the local side of it, they're still scared of it. So they wouldn't pay their electricity bill, for example, online. They'd rather stand in line and get that receipt. Because I'm sure that I have it. Yet, you're paying for something in a foreign country. You have no idea where it is. You expect it to be delivered, but you believe that it will be. It is to engender that trust that we have, that element of digital society. And that is built through awareness, through training, through a lot of sensitization, and through the demonstration of the fact that the technology works. Are there plans to do workshops, or at least to give folks the option to become, I would say, when we consider digital literacy, being able to understand Microsoft Word, being able to understand the PC, understand the phone, which will be the first probably interaction with the technology. Are there plans to get people up to speed? Those are already underway. We have a number of programs that we're putting them together for various elements of where you're starting. So for those who are just genuinely scared of the thing, you need just an introduction to it. All the way up to people who are actually self-taught experts, who now need certification. We've partnered with YTEP recently. That has been and it's been oversubscribed from the time we turned it on. And that, again, is for people of all walks of life, of any age, and who would be trained by, or at least have an intervention with people who understand how to do it. And what they will do is try to start at any level at which you are and gradually bring you into the fold for this. It's available online. If you check on our website, you'll see it. This is the first of many. We have a partnership with Microsoft as well. We're doing the same thing. The Linux Foundation is coming in to do it with us. And we also look at, we have to deal with civil society. Think about being visually impaired or having an issue relative to like a learning disability. We've partnered with Alta, for example, to do similar things with those people, and we will continue to partner with social society to do it.
Minister, can you elaborate some more on what the national e-identity is all about?
Certainly. It's one of our major projects. They're about, so the ministry is a ministry of partnerships. People ask me all the time, what is the ministry doing in terms of digital transformation? But it's happening all around you. If you look at all the ministries, divisions, and agencies, you'll see that that is happening across all of them. And the Ministry of Digital Transformation is in the middle and the heart of it, while being executed by those. But the e-identity is one that is specific and is specifically being done by the Ministry of Digital Transformation. And what it is that it's going to enable the state to identify you uniquely. I'll give you an example. You go to the bank to do something, for example. I'm not picking on banks, but they are one of the more rigid people in terms of identification. You have to work with 2 forms of ID. Your driver's permit in your pocket, really, you only have it because you need to drive. Not everyone in Trinidad and Tobago has one, and it identifies you to the Ministry of Works and Transport Licensing Division.
Yes.
The identification card is similar. It's not mandated by law that you have one. If you're not voting, you probably won't need it. And it identifies you at the Registrar General's office. Your passport identifies you to the Ministry of National Security, Immigration Division. And so all of those forms of identification identify you to somebody or entity, but it doesn't you go to the hospital. You don't have a health, anything that identifies you. So what we're trying to do with the e-identity, what we're going to do, is to create a unique identifier for each individual. And it means that for you to be able to access government services easily, all you have to do is identify yourself that way.
Oh, okay.
So you go to the hospital, you are you. You would find that if you go to the Port of Spain hospital, you are you, and if you go to the hospital in Tobago, you are still you, because we can identify you that way. Your driver's permit is still tied to you. So ultimately, what it does is it creates this single, unique identifier for you as an entity that allows for the ease of access of goods and services, and eventually will include receipt of payments, subsidies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's quite a powerful tool and a standard thing for digital government.
So this would be obviously for locals, nationals?
Anyone who resides in Trinidad and Tobago.
So this would also be extended, I'm asking now, based on the immigrant population, which in here by big numbers. What's going to be their scenario in terms of identification?
So once there's an immigration policy that guides us, once this can uniquely identify anyone who is in Trinidad.
Who lives in Trinidad and Tobago.
Who happens to, even if you're here temporarily, we can identify you that way, if that is the direction in which we want to go via the policy.
And people shouldn't be intimidated by the cards, because private entities give people cards so they can redeem goods and services. And most persons' wallet at this point in time would have at least, I would say, minimum 4 or 5 cards.
Exactly, and the thing about the identity is that it is not necessarily card-driven. You don't have to have a card on you to identify yourself. You have a lot of unique features about you that will identify you. Your face, facial recognition, facial verification, for example. All of that is available within the identity space.
This rollout, is this going to be something, I mean, this must be a massive rollout. At what point would you all really implement, or at least get the ball rolling on this national identity?
So it's rolling already. We have an established MOU with the government of Estonia, and of course various companies behind that. We have also a significant amount of technical people working on it here, and we are well advanced in terms of the design, how we're going to roll it out, what we're going to roll it out in first. Because think about this, having e-identity and not being able to use it doesn't really make sense. So the idea is that we're going to tie it initially, even from the time it begins to be rolled out, to a number of ministries, whereby people who want to access services from those ministries, if they opt to have a national e-identity, will find that the ease of doing business with those will be a lot easier.
Would you say our ICT systems in Trinidad and Tobago is sustainable, it's vibrant? Where are we as a nation, let's say compared to probably some of our neighbors in the region? Where do we sit on the global stage when it comes to understanding the tech and just being ready to adapt and to be part of the change?
You know, it's interesting. We had the UNDP here. One of the things that we had them doing for us is digital readiness assessment, where they actually assessed across a wide cross-section of Trinidad and Tobago its readiness for digital technology and the adoption and use of it. And we scored, by the way, relatively highly. I mean, compared to our Caribbean neighbors, we are right up there. But even if you look in the hemisphere, where, I mean, obviously the United States and places like that will be a bit different. But in terms of SIDS, small island developing states, we are right at the top with that. And it shouldn't surprise you. 1.7 million smartphones.
1.9, I remember.
Over 140%, over 140% of that. We have significant assets that reside on island. We have 4 data centers on island, for example, certified data centers on island. We have cloud services available on island. People interact with technology a lot more. COVID would have forced some of it, but people interact with technology a lot more in those spaces. And so people's willingness to accept is there. I think the things that we have to work on is to create the level of trust that will allow for the full, utilization of all of that capacity that we have.
So I saw you last Saturday at the launch of Parler, e-commerce platform.
Well done, by the way. You hosted it. Excellent job. You got us to sing the national anthem.
Yes.
Which you raised with great gusto. So
that's right.
It was good to hear it sound, people singing the national anthem.
I think that particular starting, it kind of worked out in a really amazing way. That we all collectively sang the anthem just mere days before our independence. But I'm happy to see that an e-commerce platform is now available for the wider public and the diaspora. How intimately involved would have been your role and function to get this up and running, your particular ministry? How deep are you all into this launch, more or less, of what we would say, I compare to, well, there's Amazon, there's Alibaba, and now there's Parler, for us to get local products and craft. The ministry's role in getting that up and running? So
the ministry, as I said earlier, is a ministry of partnership and collaboration. One of the things that must be stated, and I think it is important that we make it, and you're raising it in a good way, is that the ministry and the government cannot do all of this by itself, and it does not want to do all of this by itself. So we would partner with many people. We've had help, assistance in what we're doing with a number of local agencies. AmCham has helped us out. I mean, you just name it. And that is one of the things that we found, that the business sector is quite willing to come along with us on this journey. In terms of individual applications that are being created and developed, a lot of times there is dialogue with the ministry to ensure that what they are doing is in alignment with the strategies that we're trying to create. The existing strategy for digital ICT strategy for 2018-2022 is there. It's expiring. We're building the new one now, and that will be obviously for a period beyond 2023. We intend to have, we're trying tentatively to have it finished by October, to a point of a draft by then, so we could have it finished before the end of the year. But in that, once you start going through those documents, you will see the role that the private sector has, and other things, civil society, non-governmental agencies, and so on, in doing that. So I'll give you a really good example of what it is. When you look at Parler, it's a global thing. It's not just for Trinidad and Tobago. But the important thing about Parler is that it is built by Trinidad and Tobago, for Trinidad and Tobago and the world. It's one of the things I say all the time, and that was a key part of it, that it was built locally. Yeah, definitely. It was built locally.
And in that regard, I want to find out, what are we doing to ensure that we keep the local talent here? I've seen too many times some of our brilliant IT minds would have gone to right there in Jamaica, parts of the US, and they would have, their startup companies are doing well. They would have had ideas, and they said back in the day, they were not given the opportunity. A lot of closed doors in Trinidad, so people seem to go outside to really pursue their passion. What are we doing to ensure that we keep the brilliant minds here to help develop our digital ecosystem?
So another one of the pillars that I was talking, I talked about digital society and the e-identity would have fit into digital government. Another part of what we're trying to do is digital economy. Just what you're saying is actually what happens quite a bit. For you to be able to really develop and grow and express your talent, you probably have to travel, work for somebody like Google or Amazon or one of the startups or somewhere there, or a number of the people who have returned there who worked in Silicon Valley who are starting up companies. But one of the things that the government is building is a developers hub. And the developers hub is really designed to create that ecosystem and foundation of ICT talent in Trinidad and Tobago. It gives them a place, one, where they can go and express themselves in terms of the things they want to create. It opens markets for them because it has connections to the private sector and to the international diaspora. What we found, and we're getting a lot of help on our strategy from the diaspora, you would be surprised at the number of Trinidad and Tobago nationals that head up significant parts of technology globally.
Yeah, I know that.
It is shocking every time you do it. Actually, I'll be in the United Kingdom later on next month, and I meet with a number of them, and they're saying, listen, we want to help and contribute. Mm-hmm. So even with that, but another aspect of what we're doing, we're having nearshoring happening here now. I was at a launch for a particular website from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And it was built by a Singaporean company. And I was looking at the technology and said, this thing is excellent. It's one of the best sites I've seen. We were involved in it and making sure it was secure and so on. But while we were there, we met the 4 engineers that worked really to create this thing. The 4 young people out of UE, hired by this company, built it right here in Trinidad and Tobago, under their guidance. Out of UE.
You know what, I want to stick up in there.
And by the way,
wow,
not 4 men, eh?
4 women.
I think 3 women and 1 man, 2 or 3, it was balanced. So there is, this technology thing is enabling because there is no gender difference in this, and it's something to note as well.
I want to take a quick pause. I want you to stay with me, Minister, as we continue to really, give folks a chance to understand the ministry and understand its role and function, because so many people would have heard of this ministry of digital transformation, and some not really getting a true understanding. So I think this morning we're getting that chance to ventilate all the relevant issues. We come back. See you soon. So, the technology is modern, northern to southern. That's a lyric on a dancehall song. That's what Vibes got. And it's so true. Yeah. The technology is modern. We are in that particular phase. And as you rightfully said, Minister, during the lockdown, during that particular pause that the whole world, we had to take a collective pause. People really, even those who were a bit wary, a bit mindful, a bit skeptical, had no choice but to head to the devices to stay in touch and to stay on top of things to even work. That was the option. Yeah. So I'm thinking now, we're now in this particular place, we have lots of talent in that particular field. Mm-hmm. Do we have the infrastructure, Minister, to accommodate this new traffic, this new, I would say, push in that digital direction? Is the infrastructure in place so that when people log in and they, going down to do their programming or to work in that particular technological space, they won't have any particular issues with sticking and crashing and that kind of stuff? Is the infrastructure there?
Yeah, so, and that is a really important thing. Under the digital society pillar that I was talking a bit about earlier, one of the things that if you go as far back as the last budget, the Minister of Finance had declared broadband as a public good. People are almost getting to the point when they want to declare it a human right. So the thing about that is that it places demands on the infrastructure. Now think about this, the government is not a broadband service provider. It depends on the service providers in the market. When COVID hit, the infrastructure itself was under stress. And it required a number of things for that to change. The Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago made spectrum available for the wireless people, that is, available to them so that they could expand their networks. But then, of course, there's a cost to that and a willingness to do it as well. So the service providers themselves actually took advantage of that, which is to our benefit, and expanded their network significantly. You would think that now that we're we're getting more back to normal. We're living with COVID. People are back out to work. That the broadband utilization would have fallen. It's still where it was.
Still where it was.
So it's not going to go down. So the infrastructure part of this, in terms of distribution, in terms of our capacity to take internet and broadband services offshore, a lot of the websites that you would browse and search don't live in Trinidad. They're cached here now, but they live elsewhere. The increased amount of broadband that you need, typically before people might be using broadband on their phone or any device as something for social, it's not really, but now it became your school.
Yeah, school. Yeah.
Work,
yeah.
entertainment, all of that, and as well as just plain communication. So what you found is that when something that would have been adequate, this area was well covered, it would have been adequate pre-COVID, during COVID, suddenly you had to increase all of that. And the service providers have done a good job with that is concerned. My compliments to them.
You know, things are changing, and I want to ask you the final question concerning the future of technology. But things are changing. When I remember as a young man going to a friend's home, you would ask for water. You might get juice, you'll be happy, but you're asking for water. Now when people come to your home, they ask for Wi-Fi.
Yes.
That is the first request. Before water, people want their Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Amazing.
I'll give you an example. There was significant flooding at one point a couple of years ago. And I was working for one of the service providers at the time, and we had a promotion where we would take the shelters that were put up by the state. We would take Wi-Fi devices and turn them up in the center so people who are there could avail themselves of free Wi-Fi. The mattresses were brought in, they got a small forward. Food was brought in, they got a slightly bigger forward. When the announcement of the SSID for the Wi-Fi, the whole place gone up.
The place light up.
I'm telling you. So it just goes to show the importance of that to people. It's the way in which they're doing it. We have to be able to understand the consumption, the way in which people want to utilize the services that are being provided, and ensure that those things, that we put together the right infrastructure and create the right mechanisms for them to be able to enjoy it. Like I say, I read the Digital Guardian. If there's no broadband, I can't read it.
Wow. Indeed, it's true, and thank you for being part of it. Yes, we have to thank you in that regard. As we get ourselves ready for 60, independent country, growing, getting stronger, what's the future of technology from through your lens?
To go forward, let me go back. Again, digital devices do a number of things. August 30th, 1962, on the eve of the country's independence, founding father Dr. Eric Williams said this. And it's amazing how it works even today. You, the children, yours is the great responsibility to educate your parents. Teach them to live together in harmony. To your tender and loving hands, the future of the nation is entrusted. In your innocent hearts, the pride of the nation is enshrined. And on your scholastic development, the salvation of the nation is dependent. You carry the future of your nation in the school bags. But what you're carrying in the school bags now is devices like these and like this. But the idea behind it is, when you look at what that meant, think about it now. Granny not operating this, she calling grandson, come and do this for me. And that is the children teaching the parents. The idea of having children grow up in a digital world, they're naturally digital. You're somehow more digital than you.
Yeah, there are things I have to actually consult him.
Exactly.
And he will assist.
Yeah. Technology represents a great equalizing thing across strata. If you wanted to research something and you had a phone and you had broadband, you could do it. You didn't need an Encyclopedia Britannica or a Collier's. The thing about technology, when properly applied, because it could be a sword and a shield. The thing about technology, when properly applied, is that it makes the future almost limitless. That you could do your work from where you are. That you can imagine something and create it. That you can talk to somebody who is far, far away and exchange an idea. I was at the ordination for David Rudder when we did, and I was talking with Carl Jacobs, and they were reminding that they did Trinity to the bone without ever being in physically the same place.
That's right.
Technology is what is allowing that to happen, and we have to build and develop a society that is not scared of it, that is willing to use it, It wants that when we create something and put it out there as a ministry or as a government or as a country, that it is fit for purpose, that it incorporates the customers who have to use it, that they understand that, and that is not just the people who are receiving the service, but also the people who are delivering the service. Yeah. So in the case of government services, you're talking about the public officers and the citizenry. That it is resilient, that it is safe, that it is secure. Yeah. Once we do those things, the future is limitless.
You know, well said. You actually said it spot on, because the children now, they are of the digital realm. They're born in that particular time. Our generation came from analog into digital, and we had to adjust and adapt. But the kids now, the children now, my son, all the youngsters, that's where they're at. And I'm glad that there is now a platform. The soil is fertile for them to blossom, for them to grow, and for them to expand their creative ideas and their IT interests. I'll give you a chance to just send your Independence greetings to the nation, Minister. It's all yours.
Yes, thank you. Trinidad and Tobago, I want to implore you, and I say this selfishly from the point of view of the Ministry of Digital Transformation, that you embrace the technology that is being presented to you, grasp the opportunities that it provides, encourage one another to be part of it, and make this Diamond Jubilee, as we have 60 years is a significant, it only happens once to begin with. But make this a time when we sit, reflect, not only on how far we've come, but where we are going to go. Stay, live together in love and harmony, and let us enjoy this beautiful place of ours, Trinidad and Tobago. According to David Vedder, believe in yourself, and the chant going to make sense. Another day in paradise.
Minister, thank you so much for coming this morning, for coming in live to give us the greetings from the ministry and to put us in that particular mind frame that, you know what, we're in the place, the digital space and place, and it's for us to get on board. Hassel Bacchus, Minister of Digital Transformation, touching base with us. We come back and head across to Tortuga to tell you what's happening for Independence. 16 Tortuga. Big celebrations ahead. Stand by for the details.